welcome back into today's video. Going to have a look at going out in towards August. Today's video is still posing a few problems, really, what's going to happen as we get into August. I think we're going to have some pretty hot weather to start off with, certainly through the first week, but quite how long that's going to go on for into August, I'm a bit uncertain, really. The charts are swinging about quite a lot. There's a lot of variation, a lot of swings going on from run to run. Last night the computer models were generally showing a very hot and settled scene going well out into August, but it's not as clear cut as that this morning. August has always been problematic. I've been looking at August for 2 or 3 weeks, really, and you'll know I've been doing updates about how things are looking as we've approached August. And to be honest, I'm still not sure about what really is going to happen through August. So I've got to come up with the August forecast probably for Friday, and I'm still really quite uncertain about just how warm and settled August is going to be. I certainly have doubts that it's going to be anything like as hot and as settled as July, but I think at times it will still have some really warm weather, and particularly perhaps in the first week of the month. But anyway, before I get on with it all, I just want to talk about the advertising. There's green keyword ads on my pages at GavsWebVids.com. Rolling your cursor over those green keywords will display ads. You'll see an ad pop up, but if you click through the green word, if you click through the ad, you go to the advertiser's website, and when you do that, you support GavsWebVids.com, and thanks very much for doing that. So just want to start off by having a look at the temperatures for this week. Now, they're pretty cool today, actually. The first really below average day for probably since around the 1st or 2nd of July, actually. So for quite a few weeks, we've got our first below average temperature day, with temperatures generally around the upper teens to low 20s, possibly as high as 22 down in the West Country. That's around 72 Fahrenheit, and it's perhaps close to where we should be, but generally I think we're just a little bit below the July average for today. It's not going to last long though, because the temperatures will start picking up in the south tomorrow, although for Northern England it could be a particularly cool and wet day, very unpleasant day for Northern England tomorrow. We'll have a look at that in a moment. But as we get through to Thursday, well, the heat really starts to build up again. We're pluming the heat back up from France. Temperatures are rising back into below 30s again, back into the mid to upper 80s Fahrenheit. We keep the hot weather going into Friday as well, although even by Friday we're trying to bring cooler air back in from the west, so it's only a brief sort of plume of very hot conditions, and by the time we get through to Saturday, temperatures will drop down to nearer normal, although still quite a bit above average for England and Wales at the mid-20s Celsius, and that goes on into Sunday as well. So a very brief plume of very hot air, I think, as we go through Thursday and just lasting into Friday, then temperatures dropping down still to above average levels, but to more sensible values. Rainfall forecast for today showing that we've got showers or longer spells of rain across many parts of the country. It's been a wet morning in the south, that'll clear off in towards the continent, but we can still keep it quite showery for many parts of the country. There's the very wet weather coming in tomorrow. Now, this is on an active warm front, and it's behind that warm front that will start to waft in the hot air from France, but that's a very active warm front. It could give a really wet and unpleasant day for parts of North Wales in particular, and going through into the North Midlands and Northern England. Some very wet weather is possible there, maybe up to 25 millimetres in some places, over an inch of rain. By Thursday, that heavy rain has pushed northwards, so that it's affecting Scotland and Northern Ireland. As I say, it's a warm front, so it's introducing that hot air from the south, and for England and Wales, it's mainly dry, hot and sunny. But then we bring a cold front through across the country on Friday. That could set off some thunderstorms as it moves in across central and eastern parts of the country again, but it'll introduce that slightly cooler and fresher air behind it. And then some very active storms running up the North Sea through the course of Friday night into Saturday. That could just threaten the east coast on Friday night with some really heavy rain and torrential thunderstorms. And they're still there just to the east of us on Saturday morning, first thing on Saturday morning. So if there's a bit of an adjustment there, we could see most thunderstorms affecting eastern part of the country overnight and into Saturday. And then should we start to bring the showers back into western parts of the country through the course of Saturday, and that thundery weather moves away to the east of the country. Have a look at the 500 millibar height anomalies for the next 8 to 10 days time, and this is taking us towards, say, around the 7th to something like the 9th of July. It looks as though we're in a bit of a no man's land here, and this is what's presenting the problems really for me. We've got the ECMWF here on the left, The GFS is on the right, 500 millibar, 80,000 feet is where we've got weather going on. High pressure, low pressure is developing in the atmosphere in these regions, and weather is really caused by these high pressure, low pressure belts being moved around by the jet stream. Where we've got above average heights sitting here to the east and the southeast of the country. We've also got above average heights sitting in the Atlantic, but in between we've got this sort of elongation, which is indicating a shallow trough. It's not a really deep trough, it's not like this over the centre of the North Pole. That's a very deep trough of low pressure. This is sort of a weak trough, but it is a trough sitting over the country. Because we're between those two high pressure belts and we're under a weak trough, it makes it very difficult to say what's going to happen. We could, in theory, ridge these high pressure belts together and form another area of high pressure, or we could, in theory, deepen this trough and develop a proper trough of low pressure over the top of the country. So, bit uncertain really, and that's what's causing the problems, I think, about where we're going to from the from the second week of August onwards. The GFS is very similar. There's the heights sitting to the east, the above average heights, and out in the Atlantic. It makes more of a trough actually there in the Atlantic, and it's slightly to the west of us, so that could start pulling in some hotter air from the south once again. But it's a tricky sort of pattern to judge this. It's quite difficult to say where we're going as we go through August. Now, I think we are looking certainly at some warmer weather through the first week of August. This is the plume that's coming up later on this week through Thursday and Friday. It gets very, very hot, just briefly. Temperatures shooting up there to about 18 Celsius at 850 HPA in the upper atmosphere, but very quickly dipping back down again towards average by the time we get through to around the 3rd and 4th of August. But precipitation spikes are associated with that thundery breakdown, by the way. And then we start to pick the temperatures back up again as we go through, say, the 5th, 6th of August through to around the 9th or the 10th of August, signs of another sort of plume going on there, before again we dip back down more towards the seasonal average. So very much an up-down pattern with the temperatures over the first week to 10 days of August, indicating there will be hot weather at times, but probably not lasting too long. And this is sort of what's giving me the idea that despite the fact there will probably be some hot weather through August, we're probably not going to have the consistent heat and dry weather in August that we had in July. But it wouldn't take much to ridge those two areas of high pressure together. What we saw on the high anomaly charts, which is why I'm sort of uncertain about what's going on through August, to be honest. Have a look at the temperature anomalies for the next week, Monday the 9th of July to Tuesday the 6th of Monday the 29th of July to Tuesday the 6th of August, It looks as though we're going to be above average pretty much across the whole of the continent. We're in the red colours there, right from Ireland going over to Russia, so all parts of Europe, away from Italy perhaps, generally above the seasonal average. Have a look at the generic charts. This is the GFS first of all. We've got the low pressure out to west of the country on Saturday. That's bringing that cold front through, killing off the heat that we get through Thursday and Friday, dropping temperatures back to more sensible levels. But virtually straight away we start to build the high pressure ridge in back from the Azores. Once again, the Azores high is in a very ridgy sort of state at the moment. That's what's giving us the consistent sort of hot weather. It's the Azores high constantly throwing up ridges across the country, and there we are again on Sunday before with the Azores high throwing up a ridge. That develops into a proper area of low pressure as we go through to Monday the 5th. That'll have some quite hot air coming up from the south and the east with it, but very quickly that high pressure will slip to the east. The other thundery low pressure starts coming out of Biscay, and by the time we get through to Wednesday the 7th of August, well then we're under a thundery area of low pressure, having violent thunderstorms and taking the heat away to the east once again. And then that low pressure sort of sits over the country through Thursday the 8th and into Friday the night, bringing in a cooler, fresher west to northwesterly winds. And quite where we go beyond that, it's difficult to say. The Azores high is still in a ridgy sort of state across France, but also the low pressure is quite dominant. So where will we go from that? It's very difficult to judge whether we go hot again or whether we keep it relatively cool and unsettled. The GEM, same sort of idea, pushing the cooler weather through on Saturday, building the ridge up again on Sunday, bringing the heat back, and then everything goes very sort of slack as we go through the first part of next week. That's a thundery area of low pressure coming up from France through Tuesday the 6th into Wednesday the 7th, looking quite thundery. And we end the period going through to Friday the 9th, sort of going into the second week of August, possibly turning more unsettled there, with signs of high pressure building to the north of the country, and that's probably a cooler and much more unsettled sort of pattern, to be honest, going into the second week. ECMWF, we've got to use the website Meteosil for this, showing that again we will build the ridge in early next week, but it never really develops that well, to be honest, this morning, and everything goes very slack with perhaps some thundery conditions taking place, and we end up sort of in this no man's land again between the high pressure out to the west trying to ridge in across the country, low pressure out in the Atlantic as well. It could go either way from that. You could run the jet stream in, strengthen the jet stream, something like that, and produce quite vigorous areas of low pressure around to the north of the country. That would be an unsettled and cool pattern. Or you could potentially build the ridge back up from the Azores high again and develop a big area of high pressure. It's very difficult to say what's going on through August, and it is posing me a lot of problems. I think we can say through the first week of August we're going to have at least one heat wave. We're going to have a heat wave at the end of this week, or a wave of heat, not going to last long, but it'll get quite intense through Thursday and Friday. It'll cool off over the weekend, then early next week it's likely to get quite hot again, but again probably not lasting very long, turning very unsettled once again, and very thundery once again. Whether we turn very unsettled after that thundery breakdown in the first week of August is open to some doubt. Finally, just want to leave you, as we're on the website Meteosil, just want to leave you with a look at the CFS height, 500 millibar height anomaly for January. CFS, the long range seasonal model, is consistently showing a very, very cold and block signal for January. It's doing it run after run after run. I'm not sure what it's picking up on, but there we are. This is the latest update. Again, we're seeing intense blocking there for January on the very latest run from a CFS model over Iceland. Low pressure going through the south of the country. We're bringing in east and northerly winds. That's a really cold and wintry and snowy pattern for January, if that's right. And the CFS model is doing this time after time after time. Now, it may well be, but it's just losing the plot. But when it starts showing a constant pattern, run after run after run, you do have to sit up and take notice, and it's still doing it. It's still showing a very cold and wintry sort of pattern emerging for January. But for August, very difficult to say what's going on. I've got to come up with an August forecast for the end of the week, and I'm not sure quite what I'm going to say yet. It's 5-day forecast tomorrow, so come back for that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.